Welcome, readers, writers, and followers of Beneath the Rain Shadow Season 2. In this show, we will dissect and explore the early writing and editing process through prompt-inspired stories and monthly live story critiques with our 4 hosts. Back from last season, we have co-authors of Rain Shadows Volume 1, Tamara K. Selman, and me, Clay Vermeulen. And new to the team, we have 2 very exciting additions in Gordon B. White and M. Leigh. We hope you'll join us each month for some deeper insight into the creative process and all the fun we're sure to have along the way. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy the show. Hello, listeners and readers of Beneath the Rain Shadow and maybe Rain Shadows, the first book that was created as a result of Beneath the Rain Shadow Season 1. This is Beneath the Rain Shadow Season 2. Welcome to the show. We are so glad to see you. We are so glad to have you here listening to us, hopefully watching us on YouTube there. And if you are watching us, you're seeing a couple new faces on the screen this year that weren't on the screen last year. You're seeing Gordon B. White and M. Leigh. These are 2 fellow PNW horror authors who we're very excited to be bringing on the show. So, quick recap of what Beneath the Rain Shadow really is. This is a show where we critique short stories live on the air, and we turn those short stories into an anthology at the end of the year. So each of us is going to be writing 4 short stories throughout the course of the year, or sorry, 3 short stories throughout the course of the year. And then we are going to be compiling them all into a 12-story anthology called Rain Shadows Volume 2. Rain Shadows Volume 1 is out there right now. We'll give you links to pick it up and everything at the end. But for now, let's get into who everybody is and what we're all up to. And I'm going to kick the show over to my co-host, Tamara, who's going to lead us through this introductory episode of Beneath the Rain Shadow Season 2. Thanks for being here. Tamara, take it away.
Hey, how's it going? Happy New Year to everybody. Well, New Year, everybody, anyway. But, yeah, I'm so excited to be back here. We had an amazing year last year, didn't we, Clay? I mean, we had a book. We had a really fun book launch. We did like a 2-stage tour where we did some things in the summer, and then we did the whole spooky season thing, which was super fun. We got a PNBA Book Award nomination, which is super cool. I have no idea who did that, but thank you. I even sold out all my copies at the local bookshop at Saltwater Bookshop.
Nice.
Here in Kingston. So that's a good feeling. So, and then we had a little break, and now we're back at it again. It's funny when you open play, you go, hello. And I was thinking you were going to say, hello, fermented folks. Because
the hello is maybe a little too similar.
Well, it's also hello Vietnam, but I'm sure
it could also be that. That was not what I was
workshop it.
Yeah, we'll workshop
it. Episodes to come up with an introduction.
So anyway, but I wanted to just say that is one of the new things that we have coming up with this podcast is that Fermented Fiction is now our producer. So listeners, if you listened last year, you had a different experience than what you're going to get this year. And we did a lot in the way of upgrading a lot of the things in the podcast, including 2 new ways to listen, actual show notes, abbreviated, but Rain Shadow Stories, our website, rainshadowstories.com, has all the information about the dates and all that good stuff. That's been updated. But really the best part of this whole thing is that we have 2 new co-hosts, which means way more excitement. Well, not that it wasn't exciting last year with the prompts, but it's really going to be exciting this year because they're really going to be a mystery basket. There's going to be no way we're going to know. I mean, we didn't know before, but we were sometimes really nice to each other. And sometimes we were like, oh, I think I'm going to stick it to him. So that, you know what I mean? That one prompt, when was it?
Slashers and zombies.
Slashers and zombies, right? So this way, it's really going to be so super rando. So I'm very excited. Anyway, I'm ready to write, and I'm in the hot seat the first time. So,
oh yeah,
bring it. So that's all I have to say at this point. I'm just, a new year, new writing projects, and just looking forward to writing some more horror this year.
Yeah, same here. And a quick recap for y'all. When Tamara says she is in the hot seat, that means she is going to get the first prompt. So the way the show works is each month at the end of the year, at the end of the month, we are going to be critiquing a short story as a critique group. All four of us are professional published writers in some capacity or another. And we'll be bringing in a story that has been written over the course of the previous month based on a prompt that was given in the previous episode. So this episode, we're going to give Tamara her first prompt. Each prompt consists of 3 parts. They'll all have the same parts, but they'll all be different every other way. So the parts are a Pacific Northwest quirk, which is a word we like better than stereotype. And we, but you know, kind of the same thing. So that could be socks with sandals. It could be home brewing. It could be trimming your mustache. It could be whatever quirk from the PNW you want to bring to the table. I am bringing the quirk today for this prompt. Gordon is going to be bringing our horror trope. So that could be, like we were talking earlier, zombies or slashers. It could be aliens. It could be the monster that never dies. It could be sex equals death. It could be all kinds of variations on all of those things. And then lastly, Leigh today is going to bring the third part of the prompt, which is a location in Washington State, because all these stories are going to take place somewhere in Washington, which is a lot of fun of the collection. So yeah. That's what we're doing today. With Tamara, we've each brought one piece of that prompt, and then she will be tasked with putting them all together in some way to make an original horror story in just a month's time. And then at the end of the month, the 4 of us, or the 3 of us, will critique her story as a formal critique group, like you would do in college for an MFA, or like you might do in your local writing group. There's lots of different avenues you could get into a critique group, but we highly encourage that because critiquing is a great way to get peer review and to get valuable, objective feedback on your early stage drafts. And we're going to talk about why that is in this episode. But first, let's talk about who the hell we even are, aside from Beneath the Rain Shadow. And I can start since I'm already big. And that's the biggest I will ever be or have ever been. I'm a very short man. That's the joke. Well, let's just get that out there before Gordon has a chance to take a swing at it, because I know it's coming. So I'm Clay Vermolum. I'm a local horror author and program coordinator type person for a couple local organizations. I am currently the co-chair of the HWA with Eric Keevan. I am the host of the Fermented Fiction podcast, where we debate movies, books, and shows in the genre fiction categories. And I'm an author in my own right. I'm currently on a 3-book deal with Dark Forest Press. And then I'm associate editor at Nightmare Magazine now, which is pretty exciting. So I do all that kind of stuff. I just did your spotlight questions, Gordon, for your next story coming out.
I was looking at them, and then I decided not to do them.
You're like, I refrained from this month's questions.
I opened the document. I was like, yeah, this feels like a next week problem.
Yeah, that's fine. I did the same thing when I was tasked to read your story until it was the day of. So, but it was a great story, man. Good work.
It's quite long.
It's quite long, 7K or whatever. But yeah, definitely
right under the word count.
It's right there. It's right there. Definitely go read Gordon's newest short story in Nightmare Magazine when it comes out in a couple months. It's really, really good. Nice topical exploration of current times, I think. Or any times, really. Because, every 10 years or so, the world's ending. So... Welcome to Beneath the Rain Shadow. These tangents will happen. That's who I am. I'm Clay Vermolum, and you're probably tired of hearing me talk, but get used to it if you're going to tune into this show, because I talk a lot. Tamara, who the hell are you? Just this chick that lives out in the boonies with mushrooms.
I am a writer, I'm a podcaster. I make itty bitty poetry films. I am a gardener, like psychotic about gardening. I grow all kinds of stuff. And I have been doing this all for a really long time. I used to be a publisher. I am also a former editor, or retired, I guess, editor. But that said, I'm going to be editing the upcoming Crypticon 3 anthology, which I'm super excited about. And so if you have any kind of, short story and you're the PNW writer, I think it's Valentine's Day, I think, is the deadline for that. So we'll make sure and include a link in the show notes so that you can send us your stories, because I'm going to be editing that and being a judge also. So that's going to be super fun and exciting. And really, I'm the second half of BTRS Books. We are going to be hopefully doing some more work with other people in the next coming years, aside from Rain Shadows. So, so I'm just writing. I write horror, but I also write, literary. I write hope punk. I write, weird stuff, dystopia, So, I mean, I'm in my element in 2026. So,
yes, unfortunately so, perhaps. But at least you're making the most of it. Art is currently one of the best sources of resistance. So
yes.
Continue to resist. Continue to make
Yes.
your art. Fuck AI and all that good stuff.
Yes.
Emily, because you...
Amen.
Amen. Get out there and do it. Emily, because you're fist pumping, I'm going to put you up next. Who are you? Where can we find you? What's up?
Hi, my name is Melissa. I write under the pen name Leigh. I am another local horror writer. I do a lot of women's fiction horror. And let's see, I have my first novel out there looking for representation, a constant thing that's always happening. We'll see if it ever goes anywhere. I'm also currently working on my second novel, which is going to be an Oregon Gothic mystery at PNBA Gothic, lots of mist and ferns. And I'm also working on short stories kind of constantly to trying to get into some of these great anthologies that are coming out this year all over the place. So I feel like I'm constantly working on that and hoping to make the deadline so I can do it. I also, once upon a time, wrote a blog post for the Horror Writers Association titled Where Are All the Boogie Ladies? I'm kind of trying to do a Boogie Ladies 2, always looking. If anybody out there knows of a Boogie Lady that's worth writing and talking about, hit me up, let me know. I also work closely with a couple organizations. I'm on the board at the Pacific Northwest Writers Association, and I'm also the event coordinator for the Horror Writers Association here in Seattle. I really, really love working with authors and connecting them with other authors, other writers, with publishers, with agents. It's really fun because I always kind of tell people, like, you need to be where the people are who are doing what you want to be doing. And so I really love getting people together. That's kind of my jam. So yeah. And other than that, I feel you on the gardening, Tamara. I'm kind of a crazy gardener too. I wasn't in my youth, but now I am. And mom to 2 teenagers and wife to a middle-aged man, all this stuff.
You got to find some way to cope with that.
You got to find some way. Yeah. That's me. And I'm so honored and excited to be here.
You're great at doing all that connective tissue work within our local writing community, Melissa. So thank you so much for doing that. And thank you for being here with the people who are doing it. Yeah. Gordon, what's up, brother? Who are you?
My name is Gordon B. White. The B stands for because SCO needs special things to keep me separate from the other Gordon Whites.
Sure.
The good part about that is, though, that you can find me all over the place at Gordon B. White on all social media, gordonbwhite.com. My Venmo is Gordon B. White. My Cash App is @Gordon. If you feel the need. But I'm a Seattle-based author. I've been doing this now for 13, 14, 15 years. I've done pretty much like every part of the writing process. I've read slush for magazines, for publishers. I've done interviews. I've done book reviews. I write mostly short fiction. I have 2 collections out. Summer's Mask Slips, and my newest one is Gordon B. White is Creating Haunting Weird Horrors, the title story of which was nominated for a Shirley Jackson Award. I've got dozens too of uncollected ones that are just sitting out there until I bother to put them together and make another book. I've written a couple of novellas too, but I really love the short form of fiction. I've been doing this, like I said, forever. Like I grew up on ghost stories that my dad used to tell me. He used to take very classic ones like Algernon Blackwood, Arthur Hawken, and he would shave off the serial numbers and then pretend they happened to him and tell me them as true ghost stories. So I actually believed that the Willows was something that happened to him and his friend until I was about 13.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Yeah. But
That's
you know,
awesome.
I've been involved too in all sorts of other things. I went to the Clarion West Writers Workshop in 2017. I'm a member of the HWA. I've been doing their mentorship program now for 10 semesters, so 5 years of mentoring, upcoming horror authors. I really love thinking about like literature and especially prose fiction. I think is really an exciting way to communicate with other people, and it's a great source of art. And so I'm really thrilled to be here to dig deep on this, and I'm hoping that our listeners can pick something up, because it's one of those things with writing advice. I think is it never hurts to hear the same thing again and again, because you never know when it's finally gonna fucking stick for you. You idiot.
Yeah,
That's my experience.
for real.
No, that's super true.
And, you can see my dog back here. There's
Oh,
the real
yeah.
one. There's the painted one.
there-
So if you like pictures of my dog, you should definitely check out all my books, because each one has a different author photo with me and the dog. And I just got a new dog, a second dog, late last year in December. So I'll have all new sorts of dog pictures, so you can follow me online for those. I mean, who cares about reading and writing? Just dog pictures.
Dog
I mean,
pics.
whatever gets you through it, right?
Exactly.
Come for the reading and writing, stay for the dog pictures. I think that's the story of every author profile at some point, as long as they are smart enough to have a dog or cat, and to exploit them for social media purposes.
Monetize them.
You got to monetize them. This is
They're not doing it
2026.
themselves.
Get with the program. Okay. Yeah. So that's who we are, everybody. Thank you for being here again. You are the listeners, and without you, we can't do any of this. What is this, you might ask? I will therefore kick it over to Tamara yet again, because this is going to be our discussion of critiques, what we look for in critiques, and Tamara, go for it.
Yeah. Okay, so this is funny. I was just updating our website and was thinking very much about this very subject, because you and I, Clay, met in a critique group. And we and I know that you were inspired and asked me to do this podcast because you had overseen two authors in, was it Fiction Unboxed, write a novel over the course of 30 days live online in a podcast or recorded.
Well, I did not oversee them. I was a fan of Fiction.
You were a fan.
Unboxed.
Yeah. Fair. Words matter, Tamara. So anyway, and so you approached me, and about the same time, this is during the pandemic, okay? And I began to learn and realize that there are a lot of writers that don't have anybody to share their work with and get feedback from. And I'm a retired editor, and it's like, people, you got to at least have if you're not going to hire an editor, at least get a beta reader, and where do you find those but through critique groups, right? And or in workshops and things like that. So when this whole thing came up, I'm like, yes. And part of the value, I think, of this podcast is that we, of course, get to generate new work by throwing these mystery prompts at each other, and that's all fun and games and harder than you think. But also we get to actually give people an example of what a critique session looks like. And even if a newer writer especially, doesn't actually ever go to a critique group, at least they can see what and listen to the kinds of questions that you might want to ask yourself, even in your own work, as you're writing new work. Now, I think I actually learn more critiquing other people's work than I do maybe even getting critiques from you guys. It's not even that it has nothing to do with the quality of the critique I'm getting.
You haven't gotten my critique yet.
Don't count your chickens.
I agree with you.
Yeah, right. But I mean, I love getting that feedback, but I also learn so much from other people's writing, and just seeing how other people see other people's writing as well, and what they're catching on. And I belong to more than one critique group. I'm actually actively in two right now, and there are so many different people with so many different points of view. So the whole idea by expanding our group here is to really give that kind of accurate or real world experience of having a critique, so that other writers can exceed that behind the scenes process. And also readers are very curious about creative process. And what we're doing is we're taking ideas out of thin air, and we are putting them in a story that's going to eventually be in a book. So if you listen to the podcast, you're going to hear the very beginnings of that story, and then it's going to just, become this thing that came out of nowhere, and then it'll be a story that you can read later. So that's kind of how it goes. I mean, we do a critique, and what we're looking for is, it's the standard Milford, I think, is the name of the classic. We talk about what works, what doesn't, for us anyway, questions we might have, and it's done respectfully, and it's done in a very limited period of time. So you really, and we usually share notes with each other off the side. And the whole idea is to just really try to get inside that story and see. I think of myself, when I'm an editor, I think of it as looking and trying to see what that writer's trying to do and help them find a way there if they haven't quite done it. And also to share what works, because we need to know that too. And I think writers really do kind of lean in on, oh, this sucked, and why did I not get this right? And we don't really also appreciate that sometimes we do get things right. So it's good to get all that feedback and then process it and then hit the road with your, story running. So.
Yeah. I totally agree. And I was thinking along the same lines as you when what are you looking for in a critique? Which is why I usually try to read stories at least 3 times if I can. At least 2, I should say. At least 2. I try to read 3 because I like to read once just to read, right? And you taught me to move it to your Kindle. That totally changes how your brain reads it. It really does. Or print it on paper. Like, take it off your fucking laptop screen and out of whatever word processor you use, because then you read it like it's homework. But if you read it like it's a finished story, your brain does look at it differently. So Kindle's helpful for that. So I always like to read first, like, what is this story want to be? What is this story trying to do? Because I do firmly believe that almost every completed story, all the elements of it that make it a good story in its final draft were probably there in some capacity or in some iteration in the first draft a lot of the time. I mean, maybe not the exact wording, maybe not the exact like sequence of events or ways that things play out, but I think that the heart of every story, as long as the author like wrote that story with a lot of like effort and intention, the heart of the story is always there. And I don't think that generally changes. I think critique groups usually just help bring it out. I don't know if you guys agree with me, but that's kind of the way it feels for me. I usually feel like after a good critique session, I'm more pulling out what's good about my story, figuring out where to trim the fat. But like the stuff that I'm going to build the story around is usually already there, because that's often why I wrote the story in the first place, is whatever that may be. So I think we're looking for that, right? And we're looking for ways to help each other pull that to the forefront and help each other identify the pieces of the story that may be slowing it down or deriving too much, or like distracting too much attention from what's really important about the story, what the story is really trying to say. Also, maybe I should just throw in a semantic note for you listeners, just in case you've never been to a critique group or you have no idea what the hell we're talking about. When we talk about a critique group, generally what we mean is, well, for the purposes of this show specifically, Tamara, at the end of this month, will bring a story. All 3 of us will have read it and will have critiqued it. So we will then, in a group, we'll go around. All of us who critiqued it will share our thoughts on the story for about 5 minutes. And then Tamara will get a chance, after we're all finished, to reply, to answer questions, to seek further guidance, to ask her own questions. So this is just a great way to get your story in front of some trusted peers with objective opinions and some experience writing stories on their own. Another good thing about critique groups too, I think they kind of are self-policing, especially nowadays, now that they're no longer like called the killing floor. Like it used to be kind of a thing that you'd be in a critique group and the whole goal was to be the biggest asshole possible and look like the smartest person in the room every time.
Been there.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we have Gordon.
Literally.
This is the way you brought me here. I thought that was my
we brought Gordon in specifically for that. So the Gordon episodes, maybe they'll be more heated, because we're all gonna bring our own heat if he's gonna be like that. So, but yeah, they're kind of self-policing these days, better than they used to be, because
Yeah.
The goal is to make each other better, not to tear each other down. But as a writer, you also have to come into a critique group ready to tear your own stuff apart. It is going to get torn apart, but we're going to do it in a respectful fashion that seeks to optimize and iterate the work rather than like break it down and try to teach somebody or tell somebody this is how I would write it or this is how you're supposed to write it. That is not the goal. There is no way that you are supposed to write. There are definitely things that like work. There are conventions that are important to know. You know the rules to break the rules and all that kind of stuff. But that's kind of the goal of a critique, and that's kind of what a critique is. You come, you share your work with a group of people. Usually there's a timer. You as the author should be quiet and hear all the advice before you, or all the critique before you talk, because it's also not about the writer being like, well, I was trying to do this, so, you know, like we're not going to do that either.
Yeah. No. Well, and I want to just reiterate that this is the Milford. So this is kind of like the kind of classic that's been going on for decades, but there are lots of other critique formats out there. So this isn't the only one. But I'm just saying that that's the one we're using because that's the one we're just used to using. But at the same time, we do allow there are some that won't let the writer speak at all, the writer who's on the hot seat. And so in our case, we get to ask questions, we get to respond, whatever. But, generally, well, you guys will see. You just have to keep listening because we will be using that time to ask questions and answer questions too. And just whatever. So I'm looking forward to it because this is going to be a new dynamic for this podcast, but also I think it's going to be, I'm really anticipating a really good year this year. We've got some smart people here. So
yeah, exactly. 3 of us are really smart. And then Gordon, what do you think about critiquing?
Well, I think, you raised a really good point. When I work with newer writers or even established writers who are working on new stories, I think a lot of the times, like what makes a story really good is in there already, or it's hinted at. But I think a lot of times, our hearts are mysteries to ourselves as well. It's not oftentimes, and the author is perhaps one of the worst judges of their own work. I say one of because Facebook comment sections exist, and they are literally the worst judges. But part of what we're doing here, as you both have said, which is really important, is we're not trying to tell each other how we would have written the story. We're trying to help people figure out what the story that they're trying to write is. Like when I give feedback, I like to put everything as options. Like I always like to remind people that everything I say is one way of potentially approaching something. I think oftentimes with writing groups, and I think too with critique groups, one of the dangers is people who are not experienced often want to say things just to say things. And the things that they say tend to be the ones that are the most pedagogically facile. The things like 3x structure, like, don't do this, don't only use said, never use said. Because those are the things that are easiest to grade on a rubric, but those are the things that are least essential and least important to making art or things that connect with readers. And that's why it's so difficult, I think, to learn on your own. I mean, hopefully what we do here is our critique process, when we, discuss and ask questions and talk with each other, is to externalize the sort of internal process that, mature artists go through when they create things. I tell my mentees a lot, I tell them, writing is not about coming up with a perfect idea and putting it on the paper without errors. That's just typing nicely. The whole process it's a creative process of coming up with ideas, interrogating them, and then changing them. And then sometimes having to get the other feedback, you need those other people to look in and say, I see what the story might be trying to do. And part of the value is saying, no, that's not what it's trying to do. Where did I go wrong that this is what they're getting? Other times it is saying, that is what I want to do. And how can I bring that out further? So I think really the important part and why I'm so excited to do this is to help people see that the creative process isn't a static thing. It's not a first draft and then run it through a spell checker. It is a process of interrogating, of thinking, of revising, of rewriting. And that's, I think, the most important thing. And everybody here does that really well. So I think we're going to have some great discussions with that.
I agree. I think it's going to be really fun. And I can't wait to have a book with stories from all 4 of us. It's going to be a really, really cool book at the end of the day. And it's going to be a fun process along the way. Melissa, what are you looking for a critique group?
I've read so many of the first 50 pages of somebody's work. I run a contest.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I've read that, and I can't tell you how many times I have written in like the critiques of like, your story starts in chapter 2.
Yep.
That's where it starts. And I always think, like the best part about critique groups is usually that first chapter is just the ramblings of your brain still working through this idea that you have. And there's solid points in it. There's good stuff. But I feel like you don't really get whisked off into the story until, you get further into your book, usually in chapter 2. And so I love critique groups because I always feel like it helps me get through that chapter 1 of like, what were those ramblings in my brain? Where do you guys see the light? Which direction should I go in, and where the rest can just fall away. And so I love having so many different sets of eyes on one piece of work, because I think it just helps the author hone everything in, and all we want to do as readers is just to kind of get whisked away into this world, so into this story. So yeah, I think that we're the whiskers. We're the ones who,
Whiskers.
Yeah, that's what we do. It's very, very magical. The critique process can be very magical that way, I think. Yeah, exactly.
We're making up the crepes.
Yep,
That's right.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I think about it as like the reader wants to be caught up in the dream of the story, and they don't want to notice the writing. They want to be so in that dream that they just follow all the way through, and it's not even words to them anymore. It's like it's all in their heads.
Exactly. And just to have somebody kind of come through and say like, this took me out. This shouldn't be in the story. I don't know what this is. This reminded me that I'm sitting on the couch reading a story. So yeah.
It's all about friction, I think. And that's the unintentional moments of friction are what take people out. Like, I think that using friction and like can be a very valid tool in terms of your creative toolbox. Sometimes you want the reader to slow down. Sometimes you want them to struggle a little bit. I know some authors like do like very long sentences and paragraphs. The idea that a reader has to focus and engage, and they're all different tactics. But it's those unintentional sources of friction, the places where you don't mean to put up these roadblocks. You want to invite them into that dream, and you set the terms of that dream at the beginning, and then where you violate that unintentionally, I think is something that really helps the critique get them. And that's the kind of thing too that you can't really put in a craft book or a textbook. Like it's hard to do until you see it and have somebody point it out to you.
Yeah.
True.
Right. And that's one of the best things about critique groups in general, I think, is they're a nice forum to get that practice and to have it be applied practice. Because like Melissa was talking about, if you're in like, say, the query trenches and you just start your writing journey that way, that can be pretty brutal because you spend a lot of time revising and sending it out and waiting for months and then maybe never hearing from like half the people. And then one person's like, pass. And then another person's like, pass. And then another person's like, this is okay, but pass.
Yep.
And so it's like that can be really, really hard. And writing is already a lonely trade. So getting into groups of people, like if you find a critique group that you like, you should definitely hang on to that because like these are people who are not only interested enough in reading to spend their spare time reading unedited shit, but they are also people who are like writing actively. So those are the people you need in your corner. Those are the people who are going to help you step up to the next level without like having to pay a whole bunch of money for a developmental editor to learn it that way. That is another way to do it. And you should hire a developmental editor if you're an indie author. But if you can go through a critique group once or twice first, that's going to save you a lot of time and money because that is expensive to hire editors freelance.
Yes.
So yeah,
I'd like to shout out the one that we met in. Clay, which is the North Seattle Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers Workshop. So it's like not safe for work, double. So anyway, but we've been North Seattle. Anyway,
safe,
not
4 work.
Yeah, something like that. And they're still going. They handle speculative horror, fantasy, science fiction, all of that. And they're still going. They're just a great group of people from all walks of life. And then, we actually, one of our beta readers for Range Shadows was from that group as well. I don't think you were in the group with Roxanne at the time, but she was there before you when I was earlier. So anyway,
I thought you meant Josue.
No. Oh, well, Josue, we actually, he also gave us a yes. Thank you, Josue.
Shout out Josue.
And he's not even in Seattle. He's up in Canada, in the boonies in Canada. So anyway, but the NS whatever has been a really great group. So if you're in the Seattle area and you want an online, and perhaps I think they've even expanded again to live meetups, you might want to go to meetup.com and look for them. Highly recommend them. And then I have my other group, just for people if they're looking. It came out of a workshop through the Hugo House that was with Nisi Shawl. And this is my cohort from that group. And we all meet, we've been meeting since 2023 now, and off and on. And great bunch of writers. Again, whole wonderful, diverse group of people and their points of view. Great skills, great. It's amazing. It's amazing. I couldn't do what I do. I could not write without my writing group. So it's just like crazy to me that there are people, and you described it earlier, there are people who will write sent through spell check and think that that's editing and that's revision. And that's like, no,
if you
that's
ever
not
read
even
Slush, you'll
close.
see a lot of those.
Oh yes,
Yep.
and I have.
The
I
polished
used
turds that come through the Slush.
Oh, yeah. Well, some aren't even polished. I mean, let's
we
be
used
honest.
To, we used to say in one of my writing groups, the faintest praise you could damn someone with was, it's really nice on the sentence level.
Oh boy.
People who spend so much time getting those sentences right, and you're like, but the story
Yeah.
itself is not good.
Yeah.
It's just like it's dead on arrival. Yeah. Yeah, really. Yeah.
Pretty
So,
corpse, but
yeah. So hopefully listeners will have listened to all of us talk and realize that if they're not working with critique groups, that they need to find one, and maybe by listening to us, that can also just help them think about their own writing in a different way, and a more I'm trying to think of the word, something a little bit more being closer readers of their own work, at least, and pushing themselves beyond just the editor spell check button in Word.
Right.
You make a really good point too, that like, and you mentioned earlier that like you learn more from critiquing other people than you do from getting critiques yourself, because that part of it is learning what to look for in a story, and you really have to develop those skills. It's easier to develop them on somebody else's work because you're less emotionally attached to it, but then bringing those lessons back to your own work is incredibly important. And then I'll also say too, though, that critique groups can be great, but if you find one that doesn't work for you, do not stick around.
Bounce.
If it's harmful to your soul or to your creative process, it's better to cut bait and find another one or go your own way for a while.
Yeah.
Form one with your writer friends, form it on Discord and meet on Zoom or whatever. It's easier to do than ever. But it does have to be productive. That's a really good point, Gordon. Don't force yourself to stay in a group that isn't benefiting you and isn't bringing the best out of your work, because it is a lot of work. And if sometimes you'll show up at a critique group and you read everyone's story and gave like 3 pages of notes, and then like half the people didn't read yours because it was horror or whatever, and they're a fantasy group or whatever, and then it's like that can be frustrating. Don't have to stay in those groups. That said, if you're a horror writer and you enter a fantasy sci-fi group like I did, and they're still down to read your stuff, you should not be turned away by the fact that they're not horror writers too. You should actually, that's a great thing, because like they're going to look for things completely different. The things that probably work for your story for a horror reader by like default won't work for them, which is good, because you'll realize when you're using that stuff as a crutch. Because I think all of us as a horror readers, I'm sure we all have some trope or two where it's like, I don't really care how shitty it is. Like, give me a shapeshifter and I'm in. Sign me up. I'll read it. It might not be my favorite thing, but I will check it out. So yeah, I don't know about you guys, but that's another thing to consider as well.
Yeah,
For
definitely.
sure.
And I also think that I hope the people watching, like, especially if you're a new or like a baby writer, and sometimes it can be really, really scary to let people read your stuff, for the first time. And so if you can kind of see that, you can get into a good group, and it's okay to have, your work out there, even if it's just in a critique group, because that's just the first step to putting it in front of other people's eyes. And, that's how you get work.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because there's also the opposite, where If you're going to a group and you're writing to please them, as opposed to making your story the best it can be, that might be a signal that you need to move on to, because writing that, I call that writing by committee. And what you end up doing is writing because, okay, well, Clay is going to ding me on that, so I better not do that. And it's like, no, it's still your story. And it's really important to be able to discern, and this is something you do learn in a critique group, the difference between someone who is your intended reader and someone who isn't. And then through that lens, you can then, differentiate their comments a little bit. When they say they don't like something, it might be because they're not your reader. I mean, I read a lot of magical realism, and there are readers that they don't get it, and then there are readers who just love it. So I've learned to just kind of say, okay, well, this particular person in my group, they give good feedback on some things, but they may not understand it, and that's fine. Don't take it personally. They're giving you their best. That's their point of view. It's a whole grain of salt, pound of salt kind of thing. You just do what you can. And you can't learn that without practice. And I'm telling you, even though a lot of people are critical of the Milford model, and there are other models out that are less dynamic in this way, I feel like once your work goes out into the world and it's being considered by editors, and we're going to have to take some critique. If we get in the door, if we get that request from the agent, and then the agent takes it and says, well, we need to do this and this and this, we're going to have to do some of that anyway. So I mean, we may as well learn it and get a lot of practice doing it and thicken the skin a little bit during critiques. So
yeah, you have to have thick skin for sure. Critique groups can even help with that in a way. I think psychologically, at least it has helped for me, because I will get in a group with people who are very critical, like Tamara. And then we will be in the critique group together, and she says everything really nicely. And it's like, oh, interesting. So it's almost like when you read it yourself and you're reading it held up against this thing that you created and that you're proud of, you put it in your own voice, you're going to be hypercritical. Like Gordon said, you're always going to be one of your harshest critics. If you're a writer who gives a shit about your work, you're probably a harsh critic of that work, right? And so you're going to be speaking with your harsh critic voice in other people's words. And it can be kind of helpful to be in a group with people and to hear how they say them. Good critique groups will generally phrase them more as suggestions or questions or ideas or concepts, rather than firmly, this is advice or this is a rule or whatever. Because by the time you get to where you've published a few things, and we've all published things, and we continue to do so, we're kind of to the point where we know most of the rules. So the only time you should be telling anyone a rule is if they really don't seem to know it, because that, and it is breaking their story. If you're breaking a rule, you should be doing it on purpose, because all readers know the rules, and they do kind of expect people to follow them, but at the same time they expect people to subvert them if it's considered a good story. So I think that's all relevant as well. But do you guys have any more thoughts on critique groups in general before we get into our prompt?
I think we did. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think we did good.
I think we fucking killed it.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about more as we go. I don't want to use all the material the first night.
Yeah,
exactly.
It comes up a lot. I mean, Clay and I did that a lot over the last year. In between the spaces, we would talk about process and critiquing and just thoughts about, all of that. So hopefully we can continue to do that, this coming year, and be useful to all those writers out there. So
definitely. And that for you guys out there listening, that is kind of the purpose of this episode, is that later down the road, we can send you back to this episode to be like, hey, if you want to know more about that or who we are or whatever, go back to the intro episode, so that we don't have to do it every single episode like we did last season. But something we do want to do every single episode like we did last season is prompts. Tamara, you want to take us into the prompt section? Kind of explain what's going on? And
all right. So there's 4 things going on every episode. There's the person who's in the hot seat, which is me this time. I am the sacrifice. They call that the sacrifice in a poetry, when you have a poetry throwdown of some kind. So I'm the sacrifice, and the other 3 people will deliver prompts for me, and nobody has talked to anybody else. So there's been no previous consultation. So these are super random. Whatever they came up with, And then they're going to give those prompts to me. And then I'm going to go, oh my God, this is going to be so hard. And I'm going to write a story in a few weeks, and it's going to be probably really crappy. I mean, every single story I submitted last year, crappy first draft. That's okay. That's part of the deal. And the idea, the goal is to write as close and build on those prompts as much as possible. The prompts are meant to be inspirational, let's just say. So if we don't fully embrace them, if they're in there somewhere, like I can think of Clay in socks and sandals. There's just one image of someone in socks and sandals in Colors of the Sea in the last collection. Okay, that's fine. It got you somewhere, and that's the whole goal. And we'll include those prompts. Yeah, it is totally like Chopped.
We want to transform the mystery box ingredients. We don't just want to put them on the top. Clay.
We do.
It was a garnish.
You don't want to. This is a garnish. Yes, you want to be able to taste the ingredients, right?
Exactly.
So,
transform them, highlight them.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, we are all here to do our best and to write the best stories we can. So they're always, at the end of the day, it's going to be however we put those things together. I also was guilty of that too, because I think I had military families, and I really stretched that in my story, Shanghai.
You did.
Yeah, I did. But in all fairness, it was really like ancestry. So
it works.
Yeah. So anyway, so these guys are going to give me these things. I'm going to go and I'm going to write this thing and send it back, and then they're all going to read it, have a week to read it. And they're going to send me comments on the side, and then we'll talk about it at the very next episode, Beneath the Rain Shadow.
That's right. And on that note, we're going to do that right now. So we're going to go around and bring our one piece of the 3-part prompt. So last year, I would bring all 3 parts, give them to Tamara, she'd write the story, then we switch. This year it's going to be even more unpredictable and chaotic because each of us is bringing one piece of the prompt, and Tamara will have to still assemble those chopped ingredients into one coherent, hopefully whole. Let's do it. I guess I can start since I have the Pacific Northwest quirk, and then we'll go to Gordon and then Emily. So my PNW quirk, I wore this LA Rams action today because I'm a big LA Rams fan. And
does he know where LA is?
It is football season, baby. So let's do that for our prompts, because it has been a great year to be a Seattle sports fan, but also a very depressing year at the same time. Mariners just a couple pitches away. They almost did it, didn't they?
Yeah.
Seahawks, #1 seed. It's going to really suck when the Rams send them home after a double overtime win, where we pull ahead by 2 points or something and send y'all packing and go in the Super Bowl.
I'm pouring a glass of milk to see how this ages compared to that.
Clip it right now. Okay, so clip it, everybody. LA Rams going to win the Super Bowl. But I'm going to give you your quirk for the Pacific Northwest is going to be either a professional Seattle baseball team or a professional Seattle football team. You've got a couple playoff games to decide if you want to ride the wave of success or defeat, depending on where the Seahawks are in a couple weeks.
Sounds good. All right, I think I can manage that.
Okay, Gordon.
All right. So mine is something that's come up a lot in stories I've been reading recently. Classic. And that is the Hitchhiker.
Oh.
Sometimes they're the victim, sometimes they're the monster, sometimes they're the metaphor, sometimes they're just there. I'm very curious to see what you can do with that, especially now that we've got sports going on too.
I like that. That's a good one.
So just the Hitchhiker.
So many things.
However they come in, whatever they do, I just want to see a Hitchhiker there.
Hell yeah. I love that one.
Mm-hmm.
You got radio in the car. You got so many ways that could sync up. I'm looking forward to it. That's going to be great.
Yeah.
Melissa, where is this happening in Washington?
I'm not a little bit specific, but grain elevators in Eastern Washington.
Nice.
Okay. All right.
That goes really well with the hitchhikers and oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because there could be ones that are pretty out in the middle of nowhere. So
Oh yeah.
Oh my
Look how
gosh.
lucky you are. All this sort of dovetails. It comes together nicely.
does.
It is really funny. It's funny
Whoever
how
does it
things
next week, we're
kind of
gonna have to
together.
chat ahead of time to fuck him up.
Yeah.
Would that be Clay?
No,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
third.
Oh,
Oh, you're
I'm,
third.
I'm next. So
well, too bad for you.
The plan's already been made.
it has.
It's amazing though. It's kind of funny how like when you go to a reading and the three readers that read things, there's like some common thread and you had no idea these people don't even know each other, and then they all read the story and they all have like the same detail and you're like, how does that happen?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
this is cool. I think I can handle this. I'm excited. I love it actually. So
I'm excited
off
to see what you come up with.
races.
Mhm.
Me too. It's yeah. Cool,
Yeah.
cool. Well, thank you. Thanks.
This is going to be really fun. I can't
No,
wait to
she's
see what you
thanking us.
come
We've
up
done
with.
it wrong. If she's happy about this, we failed.
Do better, everybody.
Yeah.
We need the mother to be wallowing at the end of this prompt session.
Exactly.
Reeling. Where will my ideas come from? From whence will they spring? But this one's gonna work. I'm excited to see what you do, Tamara. I know it will be very different than what we expect because it always is.
Yeah, I do like to do a little twist there, don't I?
You sure do.
We'll see what I can do.
Wahaha. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to read it. We'll be reading these in just a couple weeks. Tamara has a short window because this would be the shortest window of the whole season because, obviously we are already in the month. And next episode, that means we will critique Tamara's story, and then we will give a prompt to Melissa, and Melissa will then write a story, which we will then critique, then give a prompt to me, and on it will go throughout the year till we've created a whole ass book, which we'll put out there for all of y'all sometime in 2027 summer.
Yep. And just as a reminder to listeners that we will be live streaming on the last Wednesday of every month at 5:30 Pacific. And then a week later, we will drop the recorded podcast for those of you who want to listen later. So January 28th is our very first. It's 3 weeks from today or from tomorrow. Well, from yesterday when this airs. 20 days. Yeah. So coming up at the end of the month anyway. And if you decide to live stream, go to the live stream in YouTube. What's really cool is that you can interact with us there. So if you have time and you want to pop in, you can ask us questions and just see what's going on. Yeah. So we'd love to see you there. That would be great. All the links
questions
are
about
at
the story.
They could ask whatever. Well, not whatever.
And we have to answer them. Is that how it works? No.
We'll be watching the comment section though. I will be watching, and if I see a question pop up that has a lot of relevance, or we want to address it at the end, I'll make sure and make a note of it. So bring the heat.
Gatekeeper.
I'm going to be gatekeeping. I'm going to grow out my neck beard just for it. But we'll give me some time on that. It takes me a little time to grow that neck beard. So we'll probably won't be keeping them too tightly till December or so when I have the proper beard. Okay. That's pretty much our intro episode, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to go around one more time, tell everybody who you are, where they can find you, and then we will close this thing out, and we'll see you in about 20 days. So once again, I'm Clay Vermolum. I'm a horror writer and a podcaster. You can find me at Fermented Fiction on YouTube, or you can find me at Clay Vermolum Fiction on Instagram is the best social media to follow me on. I also have Clay Vermolum Fiction. .com as a website if you want to check out my longer work, and then darkforestpress.com is where you can find my 3-book rock climbing series, of which the second book is coming out in May. Emily, who are you? Where can people find you?
I am Emily. I am a horror writer here in the Pacific Northwest. You can find me at emilystories.com or at emilystories on Instagram.
All right. Tamara?
I'm Tamara K. Selman, rhymes with camera, and that is also the name of my website where you can find everything you need to know, rhymeswithcamera.com. And we still have copies of Rain Shadows for sale, so you could go to rainshadowstories.com and look up all of us. We all have now. I just updated it. We all are there. You can learn more about us, and my link tree is there, so you can find me in all my socials there.
Yeah. Thank you for updating that, by the way. We really appreciate
sure.
all your work for the team. Gordon, how about you?
Yeah, and I'm Gordon B. White. You can find me at gordonbwhite.com. If you go there too, you'll find links to all my books and all my stories too that aren't collected. There's links to everything. Or you can find me at Gordon B. White on literally all social media.
Hell yeah. And we will put all these links in the show notes along with some other helpful links and links to the things that I've collected in my notes over here that we mentioned throughout the episode, like the Crypticon Seattle Writing Contest. If you are a local writer, send it our way. Tamara and I are the editors, and Gordon has contributed to that. Melissa has contributed to that in the past. So it's a great collection, and it's a good opportunity to not only get a free weekend at Crypticon Seattle, the convention is free if you get into the book, but also publication with some pros and some prize money. So it's $10 to enter, crypticonseattle.com. You can find that at the contest section, and I'll put that link in the show notes as well. This is Beneath the Rain Shadow. Please like, comment, subscribe, and continue to follow along. We will be live stream. Please do it. Please do it.
Like us, please.
It's hard out there. It's hard out there. Please like, comment, subscribe. We will take helpful critiques in the comments section if you want to be a critiquer yourself. Yeah, we'll see you in about 20 days when Tamara will have a story that involves Seattle sports teams, a hitchhiker, and grain elevators in Eastern Washington. It's going to kick ass. I can't wait to see what happens. We'll see you there. Thanks for tuning in. Goodbye.